What's up everybody, my name is Dwight and welcome back to GeForce Garage. The last time we saw Dante Mutti of Retro PC Mods, he brought in his high voltage mod. And today he's bringing in another retro themed PC he's calling Hydropower.
Hi everybody. So when I set out to build Hydropower, I wanted to build something that was really an unconventional shape for the untrained eye. When somebody looked at the computer, I didn't really want them to know that it was a computer. I wanted it to be something that had a retro theme to it and also kind of an industrial theme to it, and that it would look kind of right at home in some underground post-apocalyptic laboratory. The reason why I built the actual shape that I did is because I wanted to really highlight the water cooling components. And all of the rest of the typical PC components are located in the back. The chassis is made out of wood and iron pipes, and it's all brand new pine, which I stained ebony black, so you can still actually see the wood grain as opposed to when you paint it and you don't. On the base, we have a good amount of vacuum tubes because I'm a huge fan of old tech, and I wired individual LEDs into each one. About 30% of them have flickering LEDs throughout. So when it's on, it kind of looks like there's an electrical short or that it's doing something. I had originally measured the base to exactly fit the power supply, but it ended up not fitting after I put in the wiring under the vacuum tubes for the LEDs. So I cut a hole in the base so the power supply is actually sitting inside the base as opposed to on top of it. All the wiring from the PC components runs up and down the pipes and to the power supply. So as far as wire management, when you look at the front of the computer, you don't really see any wires at all. On the rear, you have some yellow and black wires that I left exposed on purpose. It really gives it a vintage feel when you have a bit of a controlled mess. The three valves in the front, the leftmost valve actually controls the power. So as you turn it, the computer turns on. The other two valves control different aspects of the lighting. So one of them controls the underlighting and the vacuum tubes, and the other one controls the underlighting of the platforms that all the PC components are on. The rear cover and rear I/O are both made from sheets of aluminum. And it's actually the same aluminum that I use for the platforms that the reservoir, the radiator, the motherboard, and the GPU sit on. Another thing that I try to do to kind of bring things all together is to use metal mesh throughout the entire mod. The metal mesh is actually something that's generally used for like animal enclosures, and it really kind of had a retro vintage feel to it when I put it on my electrical components, so I decided to kind of use it throughout. One of the things that I'm actually most proud of when it comes to that mesh is when I wrapped the PCIe riser cable, because when I first installed it, it just looked at this black riser cable in the middle of all of these custom things that I had done, and I really didn't like the way that it looked. It kind of looked like an eyesore. So I decided to wrap it in the metal mesh, and it ended up looking really cohesive with the whole rest of the theme. I built the PC to compete at PDXLAN, and when it was time to go to the event actually ended up being postponed because of the pandemic. It was postponed for 2 years, and as I sat around at home looking at the new mod that I had just built, I decided to add on to it since I had more time on my hands. I always wanted to do a monitor mod, and I really wanted to build something that was of equal caliber. Much like the computer, it has the same type of vacuum tubes, the same type of valves that control lighting. And one of the things that I did a little bit different with this one, as opposed to the computer, is that I added some gauges. And those gauges were about 74 years old and still in perfect working condition. When I set out to build mods, I tend to buy a lot of different items, and about half of them I end up just not using because I buy lots of different things and some end up coming into the mod and some don't. So I used a lot of those extra parts for the monitor stand, and it all looks really good together because of that. The other thing that I built out was what I call the control board. So the control board has the mouse and a Cooler Master control pad that I use for gaming. The mouse pad on it actually has an inlay which was made with a CNC machine. The control board also has a mouse bungee to hold the mouse wire, and both the wires from the control pad and the mouse go into an electrical box that has a USB hub inside of it. So two wires go in on the board, but only one wire comes out and plugs into the computer. For the specs, I have an ASUS tough gaming motherboard paired with an Intel i7 processor. I loaded up 32 gigs of RAM, which is the Kingston RGB Renegade RAM, and the RGB colors are kind of made to match the look and feel of the PC. There's two 1 terabyte M.2 drives from Viper, and the entire water cooling loop is by EK Water Blocks and Spartan Liquid Cooling. It's all powered by a Fractal Design power supply, that's the Ion Plus 860 watt platinum. And the GPU is an EVGA GeForce RTX 3080 Ti for the Win 3 Ultra. For the keyboard, I actually ended up using the Cooler Master control pad. I didn't want a keyboard to be sitting in front of the computer, again, because I didn't want it to necessarily look like a computer. So I changed out all the buttons that come with it to retro vintage style buttons, so it would match the look and feel of the rest of the computer.
Thanks, Dante, for sharing with us your latest retro build. I absolutely love the concept of using reclaimed tech and materials to repurpose them into beautiful PC builds. If you guys enjoyed this type of video and would like to see more, hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you for the next one.